Chapter 3. Healing. The grandeur of the royal suite was akin to a gilded cage, its opulence both suffocating and entrancing. Ezra's efforts to ease my unease were tender as he guided me through rooms that whispered secrets of ancient regality. Yet, beneath the veneer of comfort, an abyss of trepidation gnawed at my insides. Amara, his voice, usually a commanding thunder, softened like the velvet drapes that danced with the wind along the vast windows. You must feel so out of place amidst this splendor, but I vow to make this sanctuary a refuge for you. My gaze flitted from the ancestral tapestries to the man who claimed dominion over not only this land but, it seemed, my very fate. His golden eyes bore into me with an intensity that should have scorched, yet I found myself shivering instead. The lingering touch of his hand on mine was meant to reassure, but it felt like a shackle, locking me to a destiny I neither comprehended nor desired. Your wariness wounds me deeper than any blade could, Ezra continued, his voice a low rumble that reverberated through the cavernous room. I know you cannot sense the bond between us, Amara. It is because your wolf slumbers under a vile curse. His words brushed against me like cobwebs, their meaning elusive and chilling. I wanted to recoil, to hide from the reality he painted in such stark strokes. Yet, there I stood, ensnared by the gravity of his presence, a moth too near the flame. Bound? Cursed? I murmured, my thoughts a tempest of shadows. My past, a litany of suffering at the hands of my uncle, had left scars I wore like a second skin. But this notion of a fated mate, of powers dormant within me, of a curse stifling my very essence. It was a horror of a different shade, one that coloured my world a darker hue. Ezra moved closer, a silent sentinel exuding a strength that both terrified and compelled me. Yes, cursed, he affirmed, but fear not, for we shall unravel the chains that tether your spirit. You are meant to soar, Amara, and I will be the wind beneath your wings. I swallowed the bile of doubt that rose in my throat. His promise was a melody amidst discord, yet I could not dance to its tune. Not when every fibre of my being thrummed with a dissonance born of years spent caged. Forgive my hesitance, I whispered, the words hollow, echoing the labyrinthine corridors of my mind. It is not you I distrust, but the unknown that cloaks you. Ezra's palm found my cheek, his touch a balm to the searing fear that etched itself across my face. In time, all will be revealed. And I will be here, steadfast, until the veil is lifted and you see the truth of our entwined souls. The haunted halls of my heart quaked at his declaration. How I longed to believe in the salvation he offered, to shed the mantle of dread that clung to me like a wraith. But the spectre of my past loomed large, a relentless phantom that mocked my yearning for solace. The ghost of his palm still caressed my cheek, the warmth a stark contrast to the chill that spiraled within me. Ezra's kindness was a puzzle. Each piece he laid before me was edged with an intent I could neither decipher nor dismiss. He offered me a sanctuary, a room adjoining the royal suite, my own space, yet not quite separate from his. Amara, he murmured, stepping back, eyes latched onto mine. I can sense the tumult whirling inside you. Here, you shall have peace and privacy, but remain close enough for my protection. His voice was a low thrum in the heavy air, a solemn vow that clung to the gilded walls. Protection, I echoed, the word tasting like ash upon my lips. The concept felt as foreign as the opulence that surrounded me. My past was a shadow that danced just out of sight, mocking my every attempt at freedom. Indeed, he replied, his gaze unwavering. From all threats, both seen and unseen. As if summoned by his words, the pack healer Northern, a tall figure garbed in robes of midnight blue, entered the chamber. His white beard was a stark contrast against the dark fabric, an embodiment of wisdom gleaned from moonlit nights spent whispering secrets to the stars. "Northen will examine you," Ezra said, his hand now a ghostly memory on my skin, "to ensure no harm has befallen you during your trials." The healer approached, his eyes pools of serenity amidst the tempest of my thoughts. A nod, a gentle smile, and I found myself acquiescing to his unspoken reassurance, allowing the healer to lead me away. Once declared hale, I was delivered into the hands of the palace maids, who led me through a ritual of cleansing unfamiliar to my weary soul. In the steam of the hammam, under their deft hands, layers of grime and despair were lifted from my body, though the stains they left upon my spirit remained stubbornly etched. Their fingers worked oils and scents into my skin, the fragrance of orange blossoms and rose water enveloping me in a shroud of temporary bliss. I was adrift in a sea of sensation, the heat and water melding into a cocoon, weaving threads of comfort through the tapestry of my anxiety. Then, swathed in silken robes, I was guided to the balcony where the wind whispered secrets to the leaves. There, beneath the open sky, hands coaxed the tension from my muscles, anointed my flesh with soothing balm. With each stroke, each need, I felt as though they sought to massage away the horrors of a life lived in shadows. Yet even as my body surrendered to the ministrations, my mind roamed free, haunted by memories, a prey to fears both known and nameless. Doubts fluttered around me like moths drawn to the forbidden flame of hope that Ezra had ignited. Is this what it means to be royalty? I wondered aloud to the empty air, my heart a drumbeat out of time with the world around me. To be soothed and pampered while the spectre of the past nips at your heels. The breeze offered no answers, only the rustling response of leaves that seemed to sigh with the weight of untold stories. And in that moment, steeped in the paradox of splendor and sorrow, I felt the twin pangs of longing and dread intertwine. A serpent coiled around the fragile blossom of my newfound sanctuary. I awoke to the world tinged in the hue of early dawn, the room bathed in an amber glow as sunlight teased the edges of grand curtains, their heavy fabrics swaying like spectres in the breath of morning. The air was cool, a gentle reprieve from the night's embrace, and with it, the curtains danced, whispering secrets of the day to come. The fireplace, mighty and carved from ancient stone, held on to its last embers, a quiet sentinel warding off the remnants of nocturnal chill. In its flickering light, I saw the shadows play across the walls, reaching for me with ethereal fingers that promised both warmth and a touch of something far less tangible. As I rose, my bare feet whispered across the plush carpet, carrying me toward the balcony where the world seemed to hold its breath. Outside, the enchanted forest loomed, a vast expanse of mystery shrouded in the mists of morning. It was beauty and terror, intertwined, a Gothic masterpiece painted upon the canvas of nature. "Amara," his voice summoned me from my reverie, a deep timbre that resonated with the power of the forest itself. Ezra stood in the doorway, his form outlined by the softening darkness behind him. "You should not be alone here." I turned to face him, the weight of royalty pressed into his words. His eyes, pools of molten gold, searched mine as if seeking the silent ghosts that haunted my thoughts. "You are to be cherished," he continued, stepping closer, his presence both a fortress and a looming question. "Maids will attend to your every need. This is your kingdom too now." A laugh short and devoid of mirth escaped me. Maids? A kingdom? How could such things belong to a spirit still shackled by the chains of fear? "Clothes have been arranged for you," he added, the softness of his tone at odds with the steel in his stance. "Though we will ensure they truly fit the queen you're meant to become." Queen. I echoed the word, tasting the foreign concept on my lips. But queens do not wake to the echo of screams in silence, nor do they feel the cold caress of past horrors in the safety of daylight. And as I gazed upon the man who spoke of destiny and protection, I knew that even draped in silk and adorned in jewels, I could not escape the creeping dread that clung to me like a second skin. "Thank you," I uttered, the words hollow as they fell upon the burgeoning day. What was royalty to one who had danced with demons in the dark? A new role to play, a masquerade beneath the all-seeing eye of the sun. Ezra nodded, perhaps mistaking my acquiescence for gratitude. "Soon," he murmured, as though a promise or perhaps a curse. "All will become clear." Something twisted within me, a blend of hope and the familiar taste of despair. Clear, yes. But would clarity bring solace or merely sharper definition to the horrors that lurked in the shadowed corners of my mind? Only time would tell, a fickle companion in the theatre of my psychological torment. With one last look at the Alpha King, I stepped out onto the terrace, the wind greeting me with a frigid kiss. There, amid the splendor of my gilded cage, I watched the sunrise paint the world in colors of flame and blood, wondering what price one must pay to wear the crown of thorns offered to me. The royal suite, with all its splendor and whispers of silk, weighed heavy upon me. Ezra's voice, once a distant thunder, now murmured assurances that slipped through the air like tendrils of mist. "Amara," he said, closing the space between us with the silent strength of a predator assured of its dominion. "You are safe here." His palm met my cheek, a touch not meant to claim but to comfort. His eyes held the golden glow of twilight. They were a lighthouse in the midst of my tempest-tossed soul. "Let the maids attend to you," he continued, his voice a velvet balm. "A new beginning awaits, cleansed by water and adorned in finery befitting your stature." The sincerity that laced his every word should have been a salve, yet it stung as if warning me of the potency of his kindness. "Then," he added, his thumb grazing the apple of my cheek ever so slightly, "we shall visit Norton. He will ensure your health is without reproach." I nodded, my mind a carousel of thoughts spinning faster with each gracious offer. It was clear that Ezra saw me as more than a broken thing, though I remained shackled to the fear that perhaps he did not see me at all, only the idea of what I might become under his watchful gaze. As promised, the maids came. Their hands were gentle, their voices soft as they bathed away the grime of doubt that clung to my skin. Clothed anew in fabrics that whispered secrets of luxury and confinement, I felt transformed yet trapped within a dream not of my own making. Ezra returned as a shadow reclaiming its form at dusk. With a nod, he led me down corridors that echoed with the history of those who had tread before us. The Pack Hospital loomed like a cathedral of healing, its sterile scent an odd contrast to the earthy musk that clung to my protector. "Ah, Amara," greeted Norton, his smile a crescent moon in the dim room, filled with both welcome and hidden knowledge. A healer, yes, but also a keeper of the Pack's deepest mysteries. The examination was a strange ritual, Norton's hands deft as they wove through the motions prescribed by his ancient craft. All the while, Ezra stood sentinel, his presence a fortress I was unsure I wished to seek refuge within. When Layla arrived, her aura was a dawn chorus amidst the silence that had fallen. Her fiery hair seemed to catch the light and burn with a life of its own. "Welcome," she said, her voice laced with the promise of friendship, or perhaps the lure of a siren's call. "Amara," Ezra began, his gaze lingering on me as if trying to tether me to the moment, "Layla will help you navigate our ways. Trust her as you would me." Trust, a currency I had long ago learned to hoard. Yet as Layla's blue gaze met mine, I felt the faintest crack in the walls I had built. "Come," Layla beckoned, her hand extended towards me, a lifeline thrown across the chasm of my isolation. "Lead on," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper, betraying the trepidation of a heart teetering on the brink of hope and the terror of the fall that might follow. The corridors of the Pack Hospital were a labyrinthine web, its stone walls whispering secrets of ancient maladies and cures. I followed Layla's confident strides, her warrior's poise as much a part of her as the red hair that danced like flames upon her shoulders. There was a rhythm in her steps, a melody in the air around her that almost made the shadows retreat. Your wolf slumbers, Layla's voice broke through the oppressive silence, her eyes reflecting both the moon's mystery and the sun's clarity. But we will awaken her together. I nodded, though my heart thrummed a dirge for the beast within me that had never known the call of the wild. The notion of strength was a distant concept, like the echo of a dream upon waking. Within you lies a ferocity yet untouched, she continued, turning her gaze forward as if envisioning the path my destiny would carve through the thicket of doubt. We will unleash it, Amara, for your soul demands it. Her words were an incantation, compelling yet fraught with unknown promise. We emerged onto a terrace overlooking the enchanted forest, the vista a canvas painted with the night's deepest hues. Here, among the sentinel trees, the atmosphere was thick with the scent of pine and a pervasive creeping chill that spoke of untold stories nestled in the underbrush. Have you ever felt the earth beneath your feet, the pulse of life threading through every leaf and stone? Layla's inquiry was an invitation to a dance I had not learned the steps to. Only in dreams, I murmured, the confessions slipping from me like a sigh into the night. Then, let us begin there, she said with an assuring smile, her hand extending towards me once more. In dreams, and when you wake, you'll find they have become your reality. Her presence was a balm, the light in the encroaching darkness of my new world. She was the guide promised by legend, the one who would lead me through the twilight of my fears and into the dawn of power I could scarcely grasp. But even then, I wondered, what might such power demand as its price? I had come to trust the cadence of Layla's voice, its melody a counterpoint to the cacophony of doubts that played like a discordant symphony within my mind. Each day under her tutelage, I found my world stretching, not in the physical sense, but in the realm where shadows intertwined with light, where acceptance began to take root amidst the tangle of my fears. Your strength, Amara, is like the quiet river that carves canyons in the bedrock, Layla would say, her eyes reflecting the conviction of her words. In her presence, I felt the resurgence of life's rhythm, nourishing and steady, as she guided me through the labyrinthine ways of our kind. It was Layla who insisted on structured meals, her nurturing insistence at odds with the wildness that marked her spirit. She watched over me as I ate, ensuring the food was more than sustenance. It was a reclaiming of vitality, each bite grounding me further into this existence. Sleep, too, which had so often evaded me, now came unbidden, a sweet oblivion that whispered promises of restoration. The tapestry of night would fall, and with it the silhouettes of uncertainty that trailed my every step. Yet, there in the royal suite, the opulent chambers seemed less a prison and more a sanctuary. The fire flickered in the hearth, its dying embers casting ghostly waltzes upon the walls, a dance of memory and yearning. Ezra's visits were a paradox, both solace and torment. His touch brought with it an inferno that threatened to consume the very essence of my being. And yet, I craved the conflagration. Our moments together were alchemy, transmuting longing into something palpable, a connection that bound us beyond the realms of flesh and blood. His brooding golden gaze held secrets and sorrows of eons past, a reflection of the world he commanded, one fraught with darkness and hidden perils. As we spoke of histories interwoven with the fabric of the present, I sensed the gravity that anchored his soul. Something ancient stirred within me, answering the silent call of his presence. Amara, there is much that lies ahead, Ezra whispered one evening, his breath warm against the coolness of my skin. But fear not, for we are entwined by fate's own hand. I wanted to believe him, to surrender to the intoxicating idea of destiny. But whispers of doubt lingered, haunting echoes of a past I could not fully grasp. They clung to me like the ivy to the ancient stones of the palace, inseparable from the foundation of who I was becoming. In the quiet hours before dawn, when the world seemed suspended between the sigh of night and the awakening of day, I would stand upon the balcony. The curtains, like spectral figures, danced in the wind, and I would watch the forest breathe beneath the moon's silver gaze. It was then, alone with the stars' cold clarity, that I contemplated the enigmatic weave of my existence. What eldritch truths lay hidden beneath the surface of this newfound reality? What price would my soul pay for the power that beckoned with seductive fingers? These questions, as constant companions, nestled within the marrow of my bones, whispering of horrors yet to unfold in the gothic embrace of this eternal night. The hour was late when Ezra found me, the moon a crescent sliver casting a silvered glow upon the royal suite's ornate tapestries. There, amid the shadows that whispered of past grandeur and present mysteries, he stood before me, a figure both formidable and strangely tender. "Amara," he said, and his voice rumbled like distant thunder, yet laced with an ache that seemed to mirror my own. Trepidation warred with something far more primal within me as he approached, the magnetic pull of his presence impossible to deny. I watched, ensnared by the dance of candlelight across the rugged planes of his face. His eyes, those golden orbs reflecting the feral luminescence of stars long dead, held me captive in their depths. It was as if he could see every fractured piece of my soul. And still, he reached for me. "Let me show you what it means to be cherished by an alpha," he murmured, closing the space between us until his breath mingled with mine. How curious that such strength could be tempered by gentleness, his touch sparking fires along my skin where fear once reigned. It happened then, a kiss, our first, but laden with promises of eternity. Desire unfurled within me, a smouldering need awakened by the brush of his lips against my own. My heart, a wild rhythmic drumming against the cage of my ribs, succumbed to the rapture of his embrace. There was no room for doubt, only the searing certainty that we were bound by a force neither time nor curse could sever. In the aftermath, as Ezra's hands traced constellations upon my flesh, reality intruded upon the sweet haze of newfound passion. The weight of my heritage pressed upon me, a cloak woven from the threads of ancient power and dark curses. I had been adrift in a sea of half-truths, but now, with the taste of him still lingering on my tongue, conviction took root. I must confront the spectres of my lineage, unravel the hex that kept my wolf shackled in the void. Fear clawed at the edges of my resolve, for to delve into the witch's craft was to court the shadowed corners of the soul. Yet, how could I turn away from the destiny that beckoned with such fervour? "Will you stand by me?" I asked, daring to meet Ezra's gaze once more. "Until the last star fades from the heavens," he vowed, his voice a balm to the turmoil that brewed within my chest. We were creatures of night and moonlight, of whispered legends and blood-stained lore. Together we would face the demons of my past, tearing free from the bindings that sought to keep us apart. With each beat of my heart, I felt the stirrings of my wolf, a fierce spirit yearning to break free from its prison. And though the path ahead was shrouded in uncertainty, I knew one thing with chilling clarity. I would reclaim my birthright, or perish into the gloom that hungered for my soul. Under the cold eye of the full moon, I stood, shivering not from the chill but from the precipice of the unknown that yawned before me. Norton the healer, was a ghostly figure in the pale light, his white beard a beacon as he chanted incantations that spiraled into the night like mist. "Focus on your breath, Amara," he murmured, his voice a lifeline in the tumultuous sea of my fears. "Let the moon's energy seep into your very essence." I closed my eyes, drawing in the icy air, and exhaled slowly, picturing the shackles around my wolf melting away under the lunar glow. The pack's restless energy pulsed around us, a living entity eager for the full moon run. They were shadows flitting between the trees, their howls carrying promises of freedom and power. "Feel the curse," Norton instructed. "Acknowledge its presence, but do not fear it. Your strength lies in acceptance before defiance." My heart hammered against my ribs, echoing the distant thunder of paws on earth. I could almost taste the metallic tang of my dread, yet beneath it swelled something fiercer. Anger, a burning desire to reclaim what was mine by birthright. "Your ancestors are with you," Norton continued, his hand resting lightly on my shoulder. "They watch over you, guiding your spirit. Let them speak through you. Let them fuel your transformation." A cacophony of primal urges scratched at the confines of my mind, whispering of dark woods and wild hunts. The witch's curse was a spectre, a relentless wraith that had haunted my every step, but tonight, its grip would falter. "Release," I whispered, the word barely a flutter of sound, and there, in the space between heartbeats, I felt the first shiver of release, a crack in the dam that held back my essence. The forest held its breath, and the moon seemed to lean closer, a silent witness to the sacred rite. Norton's chant swelled, a crescendo that resonated with the very fibers of my being. My body convulsed, not in pain but in liberation, as if my soul itself clawed its way out of the darkness. "Rise," the healer commanded, his voice blending with the wind through the cursed pines. "Rise, Amara Winters, and embrace your destiny." With a gasp that tore from my throat, my world fragmented. For an instant, I hovered in the limbo between woman and beast, then I fell forward into my new reality. Fur bristled along my skin, muscles shifted with newfound grace, and the forest's song flooded my senses in a symphony of freedom. As I stood on four paws, the pack's elation enveloped me like a storm, their joyous cries echoing my own triumph. The curse lay shattered at my feet, a mere memory of chains that could no longer bind me. "Run with us," they beckoned, voices woven from moonlight and shadow. And so, with the healer's blessing still warm on my back, I leapt forward into the embrace of the enchanted forest, my heart beating in time with the ancient rhythm of the werewolves' moon-drenched revelry.